lost her voice, so she will not be with us this week. This is the podcast where we seek to demystify, develop, and celebrate our spiritual gifts through a faith-based lens. And our guest today is Dayna Parker. Dayna, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I love talking about all things intuition, and I love talking about empowerment in the spiritual world. I think it really needs to be talked about. So, first of all, thank you for having me. I am Dayna Parker, and I'm an intuitive life coach. I have been in the personal development industry since I was 23, so almost 16 years now. And I love what I get to do. I think one of my greatest passions is guiding people back to their inner truth, to their own inner voice, and to empower individuals, particularly women, in the area of personal intuition and particularly in business. I actually really love that area of the world. So that's what I do. There's lots of ways that I go about doing that. I have lots of certifications in so many different arenas, and so it's a really intuitive process for me now, and I have a lot to pull from. So, which I love. I love not following one system, but really catering to the person that's in front of me.
Yeah, that's how I feel too, because um, yeah, you just don't want to feel limited or like rigid. Like, okay, I have to pull from this tool belt only.
Yes.
Um, even like, because that's how it should be when you're working with people. You should be able to use your intuition and feel like, oh, that just came to mind. How can I work this in? Um, because we're all like living, breathing humans. We're not like fixed and rigid, and so we have to have flexible modalities, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree. I love that.
So I met Dayna last summer. She came out, we had like so my original class that took class from Elle. And we've had like our producer Rachel was there. She's been a guest on the podcast. McKinley was there. She's been a guest on the podcast. Elisa has been a guest on the podcast as well, and she was there. So it's kind of our original study circle. And Dayna came out and she did a session, like a kind of a group session and then individual where she pulled us out and we got one-on-one time with her. And we talked about gene keys, right? And
Yep.
up to this point, I'd never heard of gene keys. I didn't know what they were. I was of course open. We found you through McKinley,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, yeah, that's great. Let's have her come. And I don't know what we're gonna learn, but I'm excited. So can you explain what gene keys are? And then I want to hear about your other modalities. Like, I just really want to get a portrait of not only what you offer people, but also how did you get to where you are today? What led you on this journey to focus on self-development, personal development and intuition? What has made you like the version of yourself that you are today? So
I
let's talk
love
about that
that.
stuff.
So first of all, what is Gene Keys? Gene Keys is Gene, so as in your genes inside you. The Gene Keys is a really incredible system. How I like to see it is like before we came here, we had this plan of like what we wanted to learn here, how we wanted to grow, how we wanted to expand. And God was like, okay, here's all these spiritual gifts that we're going to give you so that you can fulfill your purpose and your mission on the planet. And then we go through this really funny thing where it's like there's a veil, right? Where we forget. And so this life to me is this journey of remembering our gifts, remembering these things that have been given to us that are our natural innate gifts. And I believe God has inspired people on this planet to help us, give us like a treasure map. I see Gene Keys as a treasure map to our greatest gifts and some of our greatest challenges that we're here to learn to navigate and dance with and to understand. And so the Gene Keys are a really incredible system that has three different sequences. There's one sequence all about your genius that has to do with your life's work, your purpose, what you're here to learn, just like a reoccurring lesson, and then what keeps you healthy. And that's the first of the sequences. And then there's a relationship sequence, and then there's a business prosperity sequence. And so these are all, they highlight our natural gifts and talents that we have in these different areas and the energies that are really present for us in those areas and our shadow aspects, the things that we will that we're here to kind of dance with. And I think my favorite thing about it, Camille, is the whole idea around Gene Keys, which Richard Rudd is the initial author of the Gene Keys of the system. He really does believe that our shadow aspects, as we learn to love and embrace those parts of our humanness, it actually unlocks gifts and these higher frequency gifts inside of us as we learn to love and understand the shadow aspects that we're here to kind of dance with. So I love that journey. I think, being in the industry for so long where I was really trying to fix myself and trying to mend this part of me that felt broken. This path is so true to what I believe of love. Love is the path to healing, loving all parts of self, learning to love and accept all aspects. And when you do that, when you truly do that, you're not actually stuck in the addiction loop or in the shadow loop. You actually move on beyond it. It like lets go of you. So it really is the practice. It puts into human words our greatness, and it's a treasure map of these natural gifts and talents, these energies that are inside of us that sometimes we don't really have words for. We don't even know how to put words to our greatness. And some of us maybe even feel like, oh, that's prideful or whatever. But I think that when you start looking, in this work that I've done, when you start looking, everyone has greatness. I believe pride is putting yourself above or below other people. Every person on this planet. Real humility is saying, I'm great, and so is every person on this planet. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I love is it puts people in a place of power where they understand their greatness and they can hold their head high and live out their life's work and their purpose.
Yeah, I love what you said about the shadow self because I remember having a conversation with a close friend a few years ago, and she was working on herself as a person, dealing with little kids and having to like just keep herself motivated to just, keep on keeping on. And she said, I've noticed that when I do something that I'm ashamed of or I feel bad about, the quicker I am to forgive myself, the
Yeah.
faster I get over that hurdle. Like that becomes less of a roadblock for me, whatever that behavior or that mindset is. I feel like I can more easily overcome it if I can quickly forgive myself. Otherwise, I'm kind of in this middle ground of like resentment, frustration. And so I like what you said about being able to embrace all aspects of ourselves and accept and maybe not like shun or have shame or
Yeah.
resist, but really kind of embrace the full picture of who we are. It makes it easier to have grace for ourselves. And when we have grace, I think it's easier to um, make those changes.
100%. And this isn't just like a cool theory or an idea. I've worked with thousands of clients all over the world. This is a proven like experience again and again and again with people all over the world that when you do take that path of loving,
Mm,
learning to love and accept, you actually move on faster. It is the easiest way to cultivate change for yourself,
hmm
is learning to identify, love, and accept. And I kind of see it like grace actually is my life's work. It's my gene key life's work, grace and graciousness. I think that's why I related so much to Jesus over the years and the atonement and understanding that I am the only one that keeps me from access to that. I am the only one. By shunning those parts of me, by denying those parts of me, it actually keeps me from accessing that energy and connecting with him. So I love this topic and it's not just a theory for me anymore. 16 years of experience and working with clients. It is the truth of how I even do my coaching,
hmm
taking people through that process and everyone's journey in that is different. It's very unique. It's a very unique process of learning to love and care for those wounded parts of yourself or those parts of yourself that you think are so unlovable. And then the movement forward is so much more powerful. It's so much more powerful.
Okay, I love that. And I also feel like it incorporates the spiritual gift of of love, right?
Yeah.
That God given love that we can sort of say, well, I don't deserve this, or I can't have a piece
Mhm.
of this right now because of what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Like you said, we can keep ourselves from that love.
Yes.
And love is really the law of the universe, right?
Mhm.
That's what we're here, I think, on earth mostly to understand is to learn how to love ourselves, learn how to
Yeah.
love other people, learn how to love and trust God, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of embracing that and like
Yeah.
allowing it to work within us for
Yeah.
our
And
good.
can I actually share? I have these pillars, these kind of pillars of what I've seen in my coaching that kind of goes along with that of loving self and how it relates to the gene keys of knowing yourself. And if we really think about it, how can you love someone that you don't know?
Mm,
How can you love someone you don't know? If you don't know yourself, if you're not aware, if you're not tuning in, if you're not taking that time, you actually cannot love yourself fully.
yeah,
And how do you trust someone that you don't know and love? We don't naturally do that in this world. So if you want to cultivate self-trust, you've got to first know yourself and learn to love yourself. And
hmm,
then that cultivates trust. And then the last pillar for me is acting for yourself. Acting for yourself is the opposite of following the crowd or doing what everyone else is doing. It's like knowing so well that you know yourself, so you love yourself and you trust yourself, and moving through this world on purpose with authenticity because you're so aware of these different aspects of yourself. It's that to me the ultimate of acting in this world in the most authentic way for you, your truth. You know your truth and you're connected to your higher power. It's you that gets to decide that. It's you ultimately that is accountable for your life at the end, right?
right,
And so tuning
right.
into that and taking that full responsibility, and I think those are the pillars to have that kind of life.
Well, that is really cool. If somebody wanted to learn more about this aspect of your business, do you have like a just website for catch all for all that you offer, or do you have a separate one for Gene Keys? How does that work?
Yeah, so one of the best ways to get a hold of me right now is thewisewomanworld.com. That is the business that I've co-founded, and I do one-on-one sessions. I love working with clients one-on-one, and then we also have different ways for you to participate, people to participate with us
Perfect.
on all levels. You know, we have really fun ways for people to join in and learn about themselves. So yes, that is the best way. My calendar link is on there, and that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Okay, now I want to know more about like what got you into this line of work and what other modalities do you incorporate or like I want to get a bigger picture of how you
Yeah.
got here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, at 23, I had two little boys, and I was doing this mom thing, and I felt in my soul that I was meant to be a mom, and I
Mm,
just felt it.
mm.
And
That's me
it
too.
caused me, yeah. And every person's different, and I honor the path of every woman, and we're so lucky that we get to choose now. And so with that, I actually started praying. I started praying and asking God, okay, what is it? What am I here for? Mom, and fill in this blank for me so I can start
Yeah.
pursuing. And it was really cool because one day it was like it just hit me. There were two aspects, psychology, public speaking.
Ooh, I like it.
And so I was like, okay. And, so in my mind, what's interesting about our intuition is things like that can hit. Those are the only words that I had at the time, to kind of start dissecting and filling in that blank. But in my head, so once I receive, insight and intuition, then, there's a story that can be made up of what that actually means. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go back to school and da 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 and da 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 and all these things. Well, that just wasn't the path. God, I think through a series of beautiful synchronistic experiences, I feel like that He has guided my path step by step. Like, here's this, do this program, do this thing.
Mm,
Hey, here's your next certification. Here's what I want you to focus on. And all throughout, I've been looking for some of the best tools, the tools that really help someone in rewiring their inner world. And so that's what I've been in search for, and that's where I've really pursued my education in understanding how to help people and healing their inner world.
It makes me think about Elle, who, you know, has had these spiritual gifts, particularly spirit communications, since a young age. And, you know, she kind of blocked it off for a while because it was uncomfortable. She didn't know what to do with it. And then as a young adult, it started coming back like God was calling her to use these gifts and to learn more about them. And
Mhm.
she really had to have this kind of one on one relationship with God to trust this is where I'm supposed to
Yeah.
go. And I remember feeling when I was about 23, I was at a crossroads in my life. I had graduated college. I wasn't married yet. I
Mhm.
had just gotten home from serving a mission for my church, and I was like, now what? What do I want to do? And I kind of felt like, you know, I'll probably go back to school to become a therapist just because that's what people that have a sociology degree that like helping people do, right? How predictable.
Yes.
And I was at a crossroads, and I remember going to a seminar called Education Week, and I remember hearing a speaker who was a life coach. I'm like, what the heck is a life coach?
Yes.
It sounds made up, but it seems really cool. I listened to him give a lecture, and I also saw a PhD after his name. So I'm like, wow, this guy's really well rounded. And it introduced me to this whole other world of self improvement that maybe doesn't bring you back to get a master's degree. And like you, I've kind of pieced together my own education where I went to life
Yeah.
coaching school in my 20s. And then
Mhm.
um, I felt like I needed to sort of take a break after a couple of years because having little kids made it too hard.
Yeah.
And then I went on like a little e-commerce journey as far as like what I did for career for about 12 years, right?
Yeah.
And then I started bringing back these spiritual gifts into my work because I feel like if you're a lot of people that are drawn into like the fields of helping people have intuition. I know even my
Mhm.
therapist, sometimes I sit and stare at her and I'm like, are you a psychic? Like, how are you
Yes.
reading my mind? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of us with these intuitive gifts do end up in fields helping people, nursing or therapy or psychology or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and I kind of felt like God calling me to learn more about my spiritual gifts to help people. And I, of course, turned more into the grief coaching side after my son died. So I feel like we all have these individual plans that God has in place for us. And if we'll just listen and trust, it's not going to be maybe standard, like, okay, you just go get a
Yeah.
master's degree and boom, you're done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to be a little bit more, I don't know, individual, but it's exciting. It's exciting to see
I
where God
agree.
takes us, right?
I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's been fascinating to see as I've gathered different certifications and done different things and to see where I've landed and where I've gone. And I love it. I love every class I ever took. Love every certification. Love. Like there's just so much that it can do for me. And I think that my favorite part about all of it is the certifications gave me kind of a foundation of things that I can pull from. And it opened up this door. I remember the first class I took to open up my energetic gifts for energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Stevenson Method. And I remember it just my gifts just blew wide open. Things that I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that this was even possible. And it was so cool to see these parts of me and to experience these parts of me and to have a system. But what I found is I really cared about that intuition. Intuition trumps the system every time.
Mm,
And I think that that's really important for us as coaches to tune into that of like great, learn the systems, let that be something you can pull from. But intuitively, we are tuned into each other. We can support each other and help each other. We can tune in with other people's permission to the energy of what's going on. And because we're not in it all the time, we actually have kind of a bird's eye view outside looking in for people that can be so powerful. And God created us that way on purpose to need
yeah,
each other, to not
yeah.
always be able to see ourselves clearly. And so showing up that way. And then I always like to just add this little caveat too that for my clients, their intuition trumps mine always.
Uh-huh.
Period.
That's
Like that needs
ethics.
to be talked about more and
More.
more and
Yep.
more. Their
Mm-hmm.
intuition trumps mine
Oh,
always. Their intuition trumps the charts that we're looking at, the gene keys,
yes.
the human design,
Yeah.
all of it. Your intuition trumps everyone else's for your life. And as
Well,
coaches, we cross those boundaries.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we get into unethical practices. We get into being the guru. And to me, that's old school. We're moving beyond the guru phase. We're moving into everyone deserves to be empowered internally for their life.
100. Oh my gosh, I could go on a 20-minute tangent on this topic because as a coach, but also someone who can do the spirit communication side, when I get like an image in a session, my job isn't to necessarily translate what it means. My job is to say, I'm getting this image. It
Yeah,
could be literal, it could be symbolic, it could be a combination. My job isn't to interpret the meaning of something for the client. It's my job to present information and let their own intuition be a part of the process.
yes,
And also, I really love what you said about it's not our job to be the guru. I do feel like in the 90s and the 2000s, it was like, oh, I'm the guru of this. And people
yes,
would use that term a lot. Like, just because someone maybe has, fame and they've gotten a lot of exposure for knowing this, like, that doesn't mean they know everything. And we should just like stop what we think and follow everything they say. But I feel
yeah.
like that was used kind of as marketing. Like, oh,
Mhm.
he's this guru and he's so much, he's 5 levels above everyone else. But I remember reading in a book called Droplets of God by Mavis Patilla, and she was a spirit communicator or medium out of the UK. And she was in one of those spiritualist churches. So she's very Christian based, but also had these gifts that she couldn't deny. And she talked about we're moving out of like, of course, when you do a session with somebody to communicate with their loved one on the other side, you need to give a certain amount of evidence so they know that you're not just like making stuff up, right?
Yeah.
But she's saying we're kind of moving away from like heavy, heavy, heavy evidence where we're just trying to like wow you with all these things that we can pull out. We're moving into the essence where we give the
Mhm.
evidence where someone's like, yes, this is my dad. And then we can move into what does dad want to say and help you kind of feel the essence of this visit from dad versus just wowing you with like the tricks of, oh, and then he must have had a green pair of sneakers because I can see. Well, if that comes through, that's great, but let's not be so
Yeah,
heavy on the evidence that we're missing the
yeah.
point. The point is
Uh,
connection, healing,
yeah,
love.
yeah,
That's the point. We're not here
yeah.
to just be like amaze people with our skills.
Yes, yes. I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And it's really important to be talking about this in our world, I think right now.
Yeah.
And especially if you are somebody who does have gifts and does coach people, and especially if you are somebody learning from somebody with gifts. Always staying in your place of power, always staying in your intuitive gifts. There's aspects we also in the work that I do, I use the human design chart and it talks about there's this emotion center in human design. And when there's this aspect, it can be either defined or undefined. When it's undefined, that means it's open to influence. So, what that means is when we're in the energy of another person, we can feel like it's our own. We can feel like it's
Mm,
us. And
mm-hmm.
so sometimes, even then, it's important to get out of someone else's energy when making decisions for your life, out of your coach's energy, out of their influence, out of their words, and get tuned into your own. And
Yeah.
so we deserve to be teaching this. And in fact, I think our world is demanding it. I mean, look on the internet. You can find truth about two contradicting points
Right.
about anything. Like this is fact, no, this is fact, and they contradict each other. Like our world is actually demanding of us that we get back to our inner truth. And it's
Yeah.
time as intuitives and coaches that we do the same for others. And I think that's the essence of what you're saying is when you're connecting, when you're channeling and you're talking with other people and their loved ones, you're connecting them to that energy of being like, hey, now you have cellular wisdom of what this energy feels like.
Yeah.
Now you know what this feels like, you can connect too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Exactly.
power. That's
Yeah.
power.
Yeah. In fact, and I don't know if the viewers know this, I do have a free class to help people learn how to strengthen their connection with the other side because I'm trying to promote like this spiritual self-reliance as well. It's of course it's great to use experts, but why not
Yes.
tap into what you can on your own too? Like let's do
Yeah.
both, right?
Yes.
Um, I have a friend who was telling me she went to go see, oh gosh, I don't even remember. It was an energy practitioner or something, and she had a bad experience. This woman was like, I sense that you were um, abused by this grandfather or something when you were a baby and no one's talked about it. And it really didn't serve her because the whole point was she wasn't going to talk about trauma around this grandfather. It was really
Yeah,
just kind of like to see what was out there for her. And it didn't hit her own intuition, right? But this practitioner was so pushy about it and like almost trying to steer the whole session that way. It just left her with a really bad taste in her mouth. And I know Elle and I covered this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but like when you're in this realm of intuitive gifts, you do have to have a little bit of awareness that there's negative forces out there that are trying to drag you down in the name of these gifts, right? So, how
yes,
to protect yourself. And like you said, we have our own intuition, our own inner compass that can kind of like feel like this feels a little bit off to me. Um, and so we need to learn how to trust that.
I agree. And I think when you have abilities like that, when you get hits of things that could negatively impact someone's life, when you get this like intuitive,
Mhm.
I call it an intuitive hit, um, it actually to me is our responsibility to ask what to do with that information.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not for you to share. Sometimes it's for you to ask a question. How is your relationship with your grandpa?
Mm,
Oh, it was great. Da, 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 da. Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. And ask questions. Are you interested in digging a little bit into the past, into something I'm sensing? Are you open to that? And then feeling into that, like ask questions to get to that point. Don't just drop these bombs like that. That
right.
actually can negatively impact people for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah, she
it's
said it
it
really threw her. And I think that's a
yeah,
good test. Like, is this practitioner really coming from a good place? Are they
right.
so focused on their agenda and ego that if you
Right.
challenge them, they get upset? Or are they really just here to like kind of see how this can, this session can benefit me and
Right.
make something that's uplifting and healing and helpful?
I agree. And as channelers, we deserve to also be tuning into the positive aspects. It's a
Yeah,
choice. It's a
yeah,
choice. And if someone's saying they want to go into some of that heavier work because things are affecting them and they're seeing and noticing these things, great, permission granted. If they're not, let's tap into the positive aspects. Let's tap into the gifts. Let's tap into the uplifting energy that is there from the other side that wants to infuse into someone's life. That
right.
actually can be more life-changing and sustaining and alchemizing to
Hmm.
old patterns than bringing in these really heavy hard things that people may not even in this life want to dredge up, let alone who knows if that actually happened,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's important, I think, that we stay a clear channel too of I want to channel positivity and healing. That's what I'm interested in, spirit. Like, period. Like that's what I want. And if this person wants something else, they can ask for it and we can tune in. I'm open to that. But this is my intention that I want to hold. Is I want clients who want to be uplifted, who want the alchemizing force of love and support and encouragement and cheerleading from the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. As we were talking about like different modalities that you've gained, it makes me think of AI because it has this like higher intelligence. And so, previously you would do a search on Google and it would just pull stuff from Google, right? But AI kind of pulls from different websites or different apps, and it's like this is a more thorough and like
Mhm.
comprehensive answer. And I think like with intuition, we can also kind of tap into a better answer for people and
Mm,
what they're needing.
mm.
Um, and being, in tune allows us to do that. Plus, of course, all the training.
Yeah, for sure.
So, can you share, without, of course, particulars, protecting people's privacies, like some recent success stories or interesting stories, experiences you've had with your work?
Yeah. Yes, I think some of my favorite reoccurring experiences are, when we go through this life, we have this really funny thing that we do. We make meaning of things. And as children, we make meaning of all the things, especially the really emotional things. And we can have these ideas And I'll give you a personal example. Growing up, I had this personal wound around not being smart enough. And in school, I had reoccurring experiences where like there would be a time test, and I'm feeling the pressure of the time test, and I didn't do well in the time test, and it's just additions, like just simple addition. And so then I had to stay in from school, I mean from recess, and then I get made fun of. And there's just these like repeat experiences like this through my childhood. And so growing up into my adult years, right, we carry those stories with us. Fast forward several years, and I'm learning about my human design profile. And there's this aspect called your profile, and I find out that my profile is called the Easy Breezy Genius. And as I start diving into understanding this aspect of my chart, I'm like, oh my gosh, proof and evidence that I'm not smart enough. And in fact, it did fuel some of my certification, some of my pressure to feel like I had to get certified. And
Mm-hmm.
I ended up, I've invested $150,000 in my own certifications, my personal growth and development. And I had this aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I've been functioning from overcompensation of not feeling smart enough. And here I am, and there's this beautiful like clue of Dana. You're here, you have this easy breezy genius. You can learn things very quickly. You pick up on things very quickly. And you're here to actually show the world that it can be easy. It doesn't have to be hard. And it was one of those really cool moments where like overnight that the limiting idea that I wasn't smart enough just like lost power. It's like the lights went out and no more power is going to that. And now this other part of me, I now have words and understanding of I do embody and I allow myself to believe that I am the easy breezy genius. And this is just a reoccurring theme as I meet with clients. It's like we have these ideas about ourselves that we don't see ourselves clearly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see with clarity the truth about us. And as we look at these different aspects and these different charts of people, you can see reoccurring themes of their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put into human words these feelings inside them and tap them into things that maybe they've cut themselves off from.
Yeah.
The greatness inside them. And so I think that's the thing I get most excited about when I look at people's charts and when I get in front of them is like, oh my gosh, do you understand how amazing you are? Do you understand how great you are? Here's the energy that you bring to the world. Here's the gift that is you. And so it's a really fun process to help people understand and to start implementing and start tuning into a new energy because I feel like so much of our world, especially as women, we can really focus on the negative aspects of ourselves or where we come up short.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That for some reason is a default in women, hence imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's a default that we deserve to begin to conquer. And I think this is part of how we do it is we start putting language to our inner gifts
Yeah.
and the energy we bring to the world.
I like that. And it makes me think of when you're talking about how people don't see themselves clearly. It reminds me of that Bible verse that says we see through a glass darkly. And
Mm,
it also makes me think about what you were saying earlier about how there's this veil. We are in this, spirit world before we come down to earth and we have our, earth school
mm,
experience. We don't remember things clearly. We don't even maybe recognize, we don't see ourselves clearly. Or even the people in our lives that we have relationships, we can't perfectly see them clearly because of this veil or seeing through this glass darkly. So when we have the opportunity to have these aha moments, it's almost like that veil gets lifted for a second. Um, and I think for sure, going back to your story as a kid in school,
mm.
we are not really set up to embrace our uniqueness based on the way the school system is set up. Unless
I
you
agree.
learn, you read quickly or you do math facts
Uh,
quickly, you kind of feel like othered or shamed at some point in school, or whether you don't do well, like in under pressure in a test.
yeah.
And I remember when I was in my 20s, I worked as a Spanish tutor as well as a life coach. So I kind of did the tutoring more like in the afternoon, evening, and I would do the coaching in the day. And it's interesting because I had some students who struggled. They were not like quick memorizers. And I had this one particular student, and he had a great personality and really nice kid, very engaging. He just didn't memorize Spanish like vocabulary very quickly, and he had a hard time integrating the grammar. And he came from smart parents. His dad was actually the CEO of an international pizza company, like very wealthy family.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time I was reading this book called, I think it's Dare, Dream, Do by Whitney Johnson. She was, I think, a history grad from college, and then she ended up working in like the hedge fund industry in New York as a secretary. And then they're like, "Wait, you're really smart and good at this. We're going to promote you and train you." So she got training, and she ended up being like high up in this financial advisement company. And she wrote this book about different aptitudes that we have. And so I was showing my student, Liam. I was like, Liam, you don't maybe learn like memorization stuff or like quick math facts or even Spanish like language. That's not your gift, but let's look at what your strengths are. And we were able to highlight some really awesome strengths. He was so artistic and good at communicating. And I was like, you have all of these strengths that are going to serve you, and they might not show up as A's and B's on your report card in high school.
Hmm.
But I'm like, you're amazing and you have your own genius, right?
Yes.
And it was just like, I don't know. I think sometimes our school system prizes these certain pupils with these certain aptitudes, and other people feel like left by the wayside.
Yeah.
And just with my own kids, I'm like, listen, maybe you have ADD and you forget a lot of stuff, so your grades aren't as good as they could be. But your charisma, your determination, your ability to get people excited about things, like
Yeah.
these are marketable skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I absolutely agree. And in fact, I've done the charts of all my children, so
Mhm.
I can put into language what their
Oh,
gifts are.
that's
And so when
amazing.
they show up, I am, of course you show up with that charisma. You have charisma. It's all over. It's just the energy that you are that you carry. You can't help it. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'm honoring that right now. It's just who you are. And
Yeah.
it's really beautiful when you have language to actually teach your children to own some of those gifts that aren't really crafted, cultivated, or admired in the school systems.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important because the school systems is really it's set up for only a certain type of intelligence,
Yeah.
shines there. But there's lots of different types of intelligences out there, and different ones shine in different arenas, and that's what makes us so beautiful collectively.
Yeah.
If we all just were intelligent with math and with this one area of intelligence, book smart, that would be boring. And in fact, it wouldn't be dynamic.
Right. There's kind of a feeling of collective stress as well because of the internet, right?
Mhm.
Especially since we all shared the COVID experience.
Yeah.
And it was like this collective like fear, this collective heaviness,
Mhm.
this collective dread.
Mhm.
So we have like the balance of sometimes being a part of a global world, it's too much information. It's
Mhm.
saturation, it's overwhelming. And sometimes, like you said earlier, we can bring on emotions like and feel them as our
Mhm.
own that are not ours. Maybe we read
Yeah.
a news article about something sad
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, I'm having such a sad day. Like, are you having a sad day,
Yeah.
or are you just picking up that emotion and putting
Absorbing
it?
that energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's like a balance of it's a balance of like finding the good and being
Yeah.
able to set boundaries with the negative too.
I agree. I totally agree. Especially, someone I was listening to a podcast the other day by Lee Harris, and he was talking about how everyone is like, "Oh, I'm so worried about World War III. I'm so worried about the potential." And he's like, We're in it. It's called the frequency wars.
Yeah.
We're in the frequency wars that you have a choice. And, when you get on your social media, when you get on the internet, when you're listening to things, there is a frequency of fear being pushed at you consistently. And it's your choice what you do with that. It's your choice to choose to grab onto that. How I kind of like to look at it is it's like there's like fear put on the end of a fishing pole and then it's put into my energetic field. And if I grab onto it and I'm like, oh, I'm so scared, and I feed it, I'm holding it and I'm
Hmm.
feeding it. And what I've learned to do for myself, and this is the visual, I love our minds are so powerful and they listen to the visuals that we feed ourselves. So when I'm reading an article or listening to something, it's like I see that fishing pole of fear, that line come in, and I'm like, nope, I nothing that. No, thank you. Thanks for the information of what's going on in the world, but I choose not to be holding on and carrying that fear everywhere with me. That will do
Hmm.
nothing for me. In fact, it'll be paralyzing. So it's kind of like a lot of times like I'll even just like go like that, like swat at it, like nope, no thanks. I nothing
Hmm.
that. Not interested.
Hmm.
I don't want to play that. I don't want to live
Right.
that. And I think that that's part of where we're headed to and opening up these conversations around spiritual gifts is we're opening up to understanding the power of frequency and energy.
I think that's why it's helpful to draw on the powers that we have because we are in a unique time, this
Mhm.
age of information,
Yeah.
where our ancestors didn't live like that. I mean, my grandma just passed away just like a couple
Mhm.
months ago. And it was really cool. And I think there was a lot of synchronicity here that in the assisted living facility she lived in, she was chosen by this student who was doing a project for school to go around and interview some of the older people. So she chose my grandma was one of the ones chosen, and she interviewed her just a few weeks before she died. And one of the questions that she asked was, "How is the world different now from what it was when you were a child?" So, just for perspective, I believe my grandma, so she was born in 1931, okay?
Okay.
She would say, I would say 75% different, a lot of difference. Well, I was younger and I didn't notice all the stress. I was born right as the Depression started, so I didn't notice as a child growing up so much why we grew most of what we ate and why during World War II we had rations. It was a whole different world. We didn't have the stress or the fears that the kids have now. We didn't have the electronics, we didn't have TV, so we learned to do things for ourselves. It was a whole different feel from now to back then. I keep thinking we lived in the golden age. Life seemed a lot more simpler and not so complicated as it does now. Especially for our young people growing up, it seemed so challenging and so much pressure on them all the time that we didn't feel. Like how validating
Wow.
is that?
Wow. Yeah, for sure. And I agree. And I do believe this next generation has the tools.
Yeah.
And we have the tools. I actually was just talking this week and I was talking about this idea of how my parents can't actually give me a ton of advice on how to parent on a lot of areas. Like my parents, I didn't have the internet and the phone and the all the
Right.
access to all the social media apps and all the things. I didn't have any of that. They didn't have to navigate any of that. And
Hmm.
those are the main things that are questions that I'm having as I have these teenagers and these boys and it's really interesting to me how much I was talking to this friend and I was like, we actually, our generation in particular, really has to cultivate grace for ourselves because we're kind of like, when you have your first child, the first child's like the tester child.
Yeah.
Like you just don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You're kind of winging it, doing your best. You've never been a parent. You don't really know. And the first child is just this tester child. Well, we're tester parents. And
Hmm.
the next generation is going to do even better because of the mistakes that we make. And that's how it should be. Like, that's how it gets to be. So, giving ourselves grace, but also, again, just circling back to the foundation, I think, of this particular episode is your intuition. Like, it is forcing us as parents to trust and have our intuition because
Yeah.
our parents can't tell us what to do. Their parents can't tell us what to do. So we have to rely on our own inner self, but also the support of community, the support of other voices, hearing what other parents are doing, collaborating on that, like understanding that, researching, right? And
Hmm.
so again, just everything points to this world is really pushing us to have our own connection, strengthening our own connection, and understanding our intuition at a deeper and deeper level.
I agree. And I think like I was saying with my grandma, she didn't grow up in this crazy time, but I feel like now that she's on the other side, she is a resource, you know, she's part of my
Yeah.
team of support on the other side. And so as I tune into my own intuition and like that channel from the divine, I am connecting not just to God, but to also voices of loved ones who are going to
Mhm.
give me ideas, nudges,
Yeah.
like aha moments where they're helping me steer this tricky path. Dayna, this has been such a cool conversation. And I
So
love
fun.
these conversations because we don't come with like a specific set of, we will definitely talk about these things. We have to. It's kind of like, we're just going to introduce Dayna and talk about intuition, but you never know where it's going to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a really cool
I love it.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really fun, Camille. Thank you. Thanks
Okay,
for
so
having
remind
me.
people again where to go to find you.
Yeah, thewisewomanworld.com. You can find me there under contact us. I have a little profile on there. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, innerworld.dana. And those are the best ways to find me right now.
Awesome. Any last messages you want to share?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would share to anyone listening who's listened to this is you're doing so good at this human thing. That's what I want you to know. You're doing way better than you think. This life is so dynamically full of ups and downs and highs and lows and so much. There's so much that is in this life, and all of it is valuable and beautiful. Even the hard, even the mistakes, every single aspect. I really believe when we go to the other side, we will look back and every aspect will be a gift that we can glean wisdom from, that our souls can gain understanding from. And so in the midst of deep mistakes, in the midst of the hardest of things, I just want you to know you're doing so much better than you think and that you're loved and that there are hosts of beings watching over you that you can call on at any time. And I truly believe that with all my heart that everyone has that. It's not for a select few, it's for everyone.
I love that. That was perfect. I loved being reminded of those things. I felt the truth of it. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. We're always looking for you to feel like you have a place to ask questions, so you can join our Facebook community. You can find it on our website, which is throughtheveilpodcast.com. Thanks again, Dayna. It's been so cool to talk to you today.
Thanks, Camille. I've loved every second. Thank you for the opportunity.